All right, so I'm going to go over your test review with you to make sure that you're well prepared for your test. All right, so you're going to see a good mix of material from chapter 1. So everything that you saw in your quiz, you won't see again, right? So everything on this review is fair game, but your quiz, we'll leave that alone and we'll just do the rest of the material from chapter 1. All right, so starting with this section here, writing an algebraic expression for each phrase. All right, so these you really just need to know what each of these words mean, right? So a number p minus 19 minus a subtraction, right? So you're doing p minus 19. All right, simple as that. All right, and then 12 more than 5 times c. Well, more than, right, means plus, right? And times is multiplication. So 12 more than 5 times c, where we're going to do the product 5 times c, and then do 12 more than that, right? So plus 12. All right, and then 1 less than the quotient of a number n and 6. Well, the quotient, okay, well, less than means subtraction, right? And then quotient is division, right? So all we're doing here is a number n divided by 6, right? N divided by 6. And if we're taking 1 away from it, so 1 less than this, right, we're going to write minus 1 like this, right? So the order that you see it in isn't always the order that you're going to write it, right? So you might be tempted to do 1 minus n over 6 like this. All right, but it's going to look like this. N over 6, the quotient of n and 6, and then 1 less than that. All right, and then 9 times the sum of a number t and 3. Okay, well, again, times means multiplication. And then sum is plus. All right, and you're doing the sum of a number t and 3. Right, so t plus 3. Right, and then 9 times that sum. All right, so 9 times t plus 3. And then 12 times the quantity 15 minus the number d. The quantity just means everything that's here is in its own group, right? So 15 minus a number d, right? We just write that as 15 minus d. And then 12 times this quantity, right? Times this multiplication, right? So we're just doing 12 times this quantity, like that. All right? And then simplifying each expression, right? So we should know how to do our order of operations, right? So if you don't remember, right, we use PEMDAS, right? Parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Right here we have parentheses, right? So we're going to do that first. Inside of our parentheses, I have a 3 squared minus 4 squared. Right? After parentheses is exponents, so we're going to do the squares first. Right? So this is going to be 3 squared. Remember, this means 3 times 3. It doesn't mean 3 times 2. Right? So you can't say 3 squared is 6. Right? It's going to be 3 times 3, which is 9. Minus 4 squared. 4 squared, again, is not 4 times 2, so it's not 8. It's going to be 16. Right? 4 times 4. Right? So 9 minus 16. And then we didn't do anything to this 22, so I'm going to write it again. 22 plus 9 minus 16. All right, and then 9 minus 16 is going to get you negative 7. All right, so then doing 22 plus negative 7 is the same as 22 minus 7. All right, so this is going to be 15. All right. Good, and then number 7, right, 4 to the 4th power. All right, again, this doesn't mean 4 times 4. This means 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, right? Times itself 4 times. All right, so 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. Well, 4 times 4 is 16. All right, and then 16 times 4 is 64. And then times 4 again should get you to 56. As always, you can write your work up here, right? So if you want to do 16 times 4, and then get 64 like that, and then do it one more time, that's fine. All right, whatever you need to get to the correct answer. All right. And then number 8, again, we're doing parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, right? PEMDAS. Right, so inside of our parentheses, that's what we're doing first. All right, so inside of our parentheses, I have a 3 to the 3rd power. All right, so it's going to be 3 times 3 times 3 minus 9. right? And then 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, right? So then 27 minus 9, and then all to the second power, right? We can still work inside of our parentheses, right? So 27 minus 9 is going to give you 18, and then you do 18 to the second power. Again, you can do this off to the side, right? 18 times 18, right, should get you 64, and then 8 times 1, 8 plus 6 is 14, right? Drop the 0, and then we add 18, right? So this should get you 324, right? So this is 324. All right. And the number 9, right? Again, order of operations here, right? -10 minus -2 times -4 cubed. All right, well, -4 to the third power, right? That's the first thing we're doing because it's in an exponent, right? And there's nothing inside of each of these parentheses that we can simplify. So it's just going to be -4 to the third power. So that's 4 times 4 times 4, right? We did that a little bit earlier up here, right? It got us 64. And there's a negative out front, so you leave it as a -64. All right, and then you bring down the -10 minus -2 times. Right, and again, next after this is multiplication and division. All right, so we're doing this first. -2 times -64 is going to get you 128. All right, and then when you do -10 minus 128, these have the same sign, so you're going to add them and keep the sign. So -138. All right. Same thing with number 10. All right, 5 minus 1 to the second power minus 10. All right, parentheses first. Inside of our parentheses, 5 minus 1, we get 4. All right, to the second power minus 10. 4 to the second power is 16 minus 10 is going to get you 6. And then number 11, right, again, there's no parentheses. There is an exponent, so we're going to do that first. All right, 5 times 5 is 25 divided by 2. Right, this doesn't work evenly, so you have to do your long division and get your decimal answer. Right, goes into 2 once. Right, 0, bring down the 5. Goes into 5 twice. 4. All right, subtract, you get 1, and then you get your decimal, 0.0. And then bring down the 0, and it goes into 10 5 times. All right, so then your answer for this one is going to be 12.5. All right. And now this next section, evaluate each expression for the given value of the variables. Right, so it's going to work the exact same way, except this time we have variable expressions, right, that we can simplify. Right, all we have to do to simplify these, plug in the numbers that they give you wherever you see that variable. Right, so for example, for number 12, x equals 2. That means everywhere I see an x, I'm going to plug in a 2. Right, and y equals 4. That means everywhere I see a y, I'm going to plug in a 4. All right, so for x equals 2, right, 5x, remember, we read it as 5 times x. Right, so 5 times 2. All right, and then plus 2, and then y, we said was 4, right? So 4 to the second power minus, and then y to the third power, we can say is 4 to the third power. All right, and then we just do order of operations again, right? Nothing in the parentheses that we can simplify, so it's going to be exponents next, right? So I'm going to rewrite everything just evaluating the exponents. All right, plus 2 times 16, right? 4 times 4 is 16, right? It's just the 4 that has the second power. All right, minus 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, right? We did that a couple times already. All right, and now it's multiplication and division, right? So we're multiplying everything together. 5 times 2 is 10, 2 times 16 is 32, and then minus 64. And then now we do our addition and subtraction from left to right. So 10 plus 32 is 42. And then minus 64 should get you negative 22. All right. Same thing for number 13, right? You're just plugging in a negative 3 wherever you see an m. So here and here. And then you plug in a 5 wherever you see an n. So right here. Right, so just plugging this in, we get 5. And then m is negative 3, so 5 times negative 3. Right, and this was all squared. Minus, and then 2n we said was 5, so 2 times 5. All right, and then minus 3, and then replace that m with a negative 3. All right, so 5 times negative 3, again, we're going to work on the insides first of the parentheses, right? Order of operations, PEMDAS. Inside of these parentheses, here, 5 times negative 3, we get a negative 15, all right, squared. And then inside of this parentheses, we're going to do 2 times 5, right, which is 10. And then minus 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Minus negative 9 is the same as plus, right? So minus a negative we said was big plus. All right, so then let's simplify this a little bit more. All right, negative 15 squared, right? That's the same as negative 15 times negative 15. All right, so negative 15 times negative 15. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive, right? You can work this off to the side, right? That's going to get you positive 225. All right, and then minus 10 plus 9 is 19, so 19 to the third power. All right. And then this we can definitely work off to the side. We're going to get a pretty big number, right? So 19 times 19, all right, 9 times 9 is 81, and that's going to get you 17, right? 9 times 1 plus 8, and then drop the 0, do 19, and then we get 361, right? And it was cubed, right? So we have to do it one more time, right? Times 19. And then 9 times 1 is 9, 9 times 6 is 54, and then 3 times 9 is 27, plus 3 is 32. All right, bring down our 0, and then multiply everything by 1, right? So 361. Adding these together, we get a 9, 5, 8, and 6, right? So 6,859. And then this, we just have to say is 225 minus 6,859. All right, so then all we have to do from here, 225 minus 6,859. They have different signs, so we're going to subtract. All right, so let me subtract 225 from this. Then you get 4, 3, 6, 6. All right, so we get 6,634. But since this number was bigger and it had the negative, we're going to have a negative as our answer. So negative 6,634. All right, so that was a bit of a bigger one. Right, so with these, you just need to be careful with the numbers that you do, with the arithmetic that you do, right? Make sure that you don't make any little mistakes, right? Won't cost you too many points, just a little bit, but still need to be careful. All right, so then let's try number 15. All right, so again, right, same process as always, right? They give us values for C and D, right? So wherever we see a C, we're going to plug in a -2, and wherever we see a D, we're going to plug in a 5. All right, so then, all right, so let's give this one a try. So 3, and then C is -2, so 3 times -2, all right, to the third power, minus, all right, and then -2, and then minus 4. D, we said was 5, right, so we're going to place that D with a 5, all right, and then this whole thing is squared. And now we just have numbers, right? So these are easier to work with than the variables. All right, so 3 times -2. Again, order of operations, don't forget it. Here we're going to work on the inside, right? So 3 times -2 is -6 to the third power. All right, and then minus these parentheses here, we get -2 minus 20, right? I did 4 times 5. All right, and you're doing that first before you do the subtraction. All right, to the second power. All right, and then negative 6 to the third power, right, is negative 6 times negative 6 is going to get you positive 36. And then when you multiply by a 6 again, you should get 216. But you're multiplying by a negative 6, right? Negative 6. So your answer should be negative 216 on that side. Minus, and then on this side, we do negative 2 minus 20, which is negative 22 squared. And then negative 22 times negative 22, right? So we can do 22 times 22, right? That should get you 444. Drop the 0, and then we get another 44. All right, so we should get 484 for this one. And then we just do negative 216 minus 484. All right, since they have the same sign, they're both negative, we're just going to add, right? 216 plus 484. 6 plus 4 is 10, right? And then 1 plus 8 is 9, plus that 1 is 10, right? And then all this added is 700, right? And then since they were both negative, we're going to keep the sign, so negative 700. All right. Oh, and then I skipped this one over here, but this one's going to work the same way. All right, so wherever you see a U, or wherever you see a U, you're going to replace it with a negative 1. All right, so here and here. And then wherever you see a V, you're going to replace it with a negative 3. All right, so negative 1. And then plus 3, V was negative 3 to the second power. All right, and then minus 2, and then negative 1 to the third power. All right, so order of operations, let's do the exponents next, right? So this negative 3 times negative 3 is going to be 9. All right, and then minus 2. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And then when you multiply by negative 1 again, you get another negative 1. All right, and then I'm just going to bring down this negative 1. All right, so then we get negative 1 plus, and now we're doing multiplication and division, right? So 3 times 9 is 27. And then minus 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Now there's nothing left to multiply, so we're just going to go straight across, all right, or adding and subtracting. Negative 1 plus 27 is 26. And then minus negative 2, we're going to do our big plus, right? I have a negative and a negative, right? And this is going to be 26 plus 2, so 28. All right, and that's it for this page. All right, and now let's try some questions like these. All right, so on your test, I really want to give you more of equations, right? So checking if a given value is a solution to the equation, right? So stuff like this, right? Maybe I might not give you an ordered pair like this, even though you should know what an ordered pair is, right? So if you see a number like this, remember in the coordinate plane, this is the same as x comma y, right? So that means this x is equal to negative 8, and this y is equal to negative 7. All right, so all we're doing is we're plugging in these numbers into this equation, right, to see if we get a true statement. Right, so everywhere we see an x, we're going to plug in a negative 8. All right, plus 10. And then everywhere we see a y, we're going to plug in negative 7. All right, and then 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Plus 10 is negative 14. All right, and then on the right-hand side, we get 2 times negative 7, which is negative 14. And then we end up with negative 14 equals negative 14. If this is true, which it is, we're going to say yes. Right, so after all this work, you should have a yes or no answer. Right, yes, it is a solution, or no, it is not a solution. Right, so let's do the same thing with the next one. Right, so is the ordered pair 5, 0 a solution to this equation? Again, remember, this is the same as x comma y. So this means x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 0. All right, so this goes with this. So everywhere we see an x, we're going to plug in a 5. Everywhere we see a y, we're going to plug in a 0. All right, so then what does this give you? 4 times 5 plus 20 equals 12 times 0. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 20 is 40, and then 12 times 0 is 0. And this is an incorrect statement, so we're going to say no, this is not a solution. All right. And now the rest of this should be pretty simple, right? So for number 18, same thing, right? For 18, 19, and 20, they just give you these values right off the bat, right? So for -1, for a equals -1, you're just going to plug in a -1 wherever you see an a, right? So then 5 times -1 minus 7, and then just do your order of operations. So 5 times -1 is -5, minus 7 is -12. All right, and then same thing for number 19. This time we have another b, or we have another variable, and it's b, right? So everywhere you see an a, you plug in a -1, and everywhere you see a b, you're going to plug in a 5. All right, so then we get -2 times 5, all right, minus 3 times -1. -2 times 5 is -10, and then minus 3 times -1 is -3, right? But remember, minus a negative, we make a big plus, and then -10 plus 3 is -7. And then ab squared. Remember, ab written like this means a times b. If you don't see an operation, it's a multiplication. All right, so then in parentheses, we're going to have -1 times 5, all squared. And the -1 times 5 is -5 squared, right? So the -5 times -5 is going to get you positive 25. All right, so that's your answer for this one. And then for these, same thing, but number 21, we have variables, and we're trying to simplify this expression. Remember, combine like terms. Like terms, right? And terms are like if they have the same variables with the same exponents. All right, so let's look at 21. We have 9xy to the second power minus 11xy to the second power. There's an x and an x, a y and a y, so the variables match. The x doesn't have an exponent on this one, nor this one, and y has a 2 and an exponent in both of them. So they are like terms, right? The variables match and the exponents match. When this happens, you just do 9 minus 11. And then you get -2, and then you keep everything else the same. All right. And then last one, number 22, is another combine like terms, or it's another order of operations, right? Do our exponents first is going to be 4, all right, and then -3, all right, 15 minus -3. Now we can just go from left to right, right? 15 minus -3 is plus 3, right? So then we get 18 minus 4, and then equals 14. All right, good. So that's your review. Everything here is fair game for your test, right? Maybe we give you a little bit smaller numbers just so that you're able to finish it in the full class period, right? But in general, this is what you can expect. All right, good.